Hello and welcome to K News. This is Hardik Trivedi. Let's have a look what is happening in India and in the world. Some 45 police officers were injured in a wave of weekend demonstrations in Berlin, including protest against coronavirus restriction. Police said as protesters gathered again in smaller numbers on Sunday. The unruly protest, in which many demonstrators failed to wear masks or respect social distancing rules, have sparked a chorus of condemnation, including calls for tougher penalties against those who violate restrictions aimed at curbing transmission of the deadly virus. A total of 133 people were arrested during Sunday's protest, which included a huge Day of Freedom demo against coronavirus restrictions. Police said in a statement on Sunday. The arrests were for offences including resisting police officers, breach of the peace, and the use of unconstitutional symbols. 3 officers required hospital treatment, police said. Around 20,000 people took part in the Day of Freedom demonstration. Police began dispersing the crowds in the late afternoon, but hundreds of protesters remained at the Brandenburg Gate late into the evening. Only 34% of Americans approve of US President Donald Trump's handling of the novel coronavirus pandemic, according to a new poll. The ABC Ipsos poll, whose results were released on Friday, also found that the US public broadly disapproves of the president's handling of the other issues, such as the nationwide protest following the death of African American George Floyd. According to the poll's result, just over a third of Americans approve of President Trump's handling of the response to the protest across the country. Specifically, a majority of Americans believe the deployment of federal law enforcement to cities with protest have made the situation worse. It added, Republicans back Trump's handling of the coronavirus, the protest, and Russia by overwhelming margins. Democrats are almost uniformly in opposition to Trump's managing of the 3 issues, with approval of the president in single digits on pandemic, the unrest, and Russia. Roughly 1 in 5 Republicans disapprove of the president on coronavirus, the protest, and Russia, and just over 9 in 10 Democrats disapprove on the all 3 matters. The ABC Ipsos study surveyed 730 adults from July 20 to 30. America's first crewed spaceship to fly to the International Space Station in nearly a decade returned safely to the Earth on Sunday, splashing down in the Gulf of Mexico. The successful mission, carried out jointly by SpaceX and NASA, demonstrated that the United States has the capacity once more to send its astronauts to space and bring them back. The SpaceX Crew Dragon Endeavour splashed into the waters of Pensacola, Florida at 2:48 p.m., trailed by its 4 main parachutes. It was the first water landing for a crewed U.S. spaceship since the 1975 Apollo-Soyuz mission. A number of civilian boats swarmed the landing zone as a recovery ship sped to the scorched capsule and hoisted it aboard with its crane. The hatch opening was briefly delayed as a team worked to stop a leak of rocket fuel vapor. Around an hour after splashdown, the astronauts exited the capsule and headed for the shore on a helicopter. They would then take a plane to Houston, where they will reunite with their families. We are entering a new era of human spaceflight, where NASA is no longer the purchaser, owner, and the operator of all the hardware, said NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine in a call with reporters. Two new tests, both able to detect the novel coronavirus in just 90 minutes, will be rolled out to hospitals, care homes and laboratories across the UK to increase testing capacity and distinguish between COVID-19 and winter flu in coming months, the British government said today. One of the tests, the 90-minute Lampore swab tests, will be supplied by Oxford Nanopore, an Oxford University spin-off co-funded by Indian origin CEO Gordon Sanghera, who believes it also offers an accessible global testing solution. We are honored to be playing a part in fighting COVID-19 in the UK and preparing the country for the winter virus season. Ever since we founded Oxford Nanopore, our mission has been to create a disruptive, high-performance technology that has a profound positive impact on the society, Mr. Sanghera said. Oxford Nanopore will be making 450,000 90-minute Lampore swab tests available across adult care settings and labs in Britain from next week. This test will be able to process swab and saliva samples to detect the presence of COVID-19 in 60 to 90 minutes. The UK's Department of Health and Social Care said the new test has the same sensitivity as the widely used PCR swab test, but can be used to process swabs in labs as well as on location through pop-up labs. The other new rapid test, which uses DNA to detect viruses, will be rolled out across NHS hospitals from September, with 5,000 DNA machines supplied by DNA Nudge to provide 5.8 million tests in the coming months. The National Green Tribunal has directed UP Jal Nigam to expeditiously complete the work of sewer connectivity to households at Narora town in Bulandshahr district to ensure that no untreated water is discharged into the Ganga river. The Green Panel slammed the Jal Nigam over non-functional sewage treatment plant at Narora and discharge of untreated sewage in a pond adjacent to the river. UP Jal Nigam must perform its responsibility and cannot take the plea that fault was of the contractor. The work of sewer connectivity to households be completed expeditiously, which may be reviewed by the Principal Secretary, Urban Development, Uttar Pradesh. A bench headed by NGT Chairperson Justice A.K. Goel said. It said the Jal Nigam is held liable to pay Rs 5 lakh for the default, which may be deposited with the State Pollution Control Board within 1 month to be spent for the restoration of the environment. The NGT was pursuing a report filed by an oversight committee headed by former High Court judge, which said the chief engineer of the Jal Nigam has informed it that the Narora project was sanctioned in 2015, and as per the project, it was proposed that treated water shall be discharged into the river Ganga. The sewage treatment plant was installed in 2018 but became operational since February 2. As per the inspection report submitted by UPPCB, the capacity of Narora STP is of 4 MLD, but current total utilization is of 2 MLD. Despite having excess capacity, still 5 MLD untreated sewage is being discharged in the river Ganga through drains, the committee said. Slumping for the fourth straight session, equity benchmark Sensex plunged 667 points on Monday, following a sell-off in index heavyweights Reliance Industries, HDFC Twins and Kotak Bank, as soaring COVID-19 cases kept investors jittery. The rupee too sank 20 paise and settled below the 75 per US dollar mark. The BSE Sensex ended 667 points lower at 36,939, while the NSE Nifty tumbled 181 points to 10,891. Kotak Bank was the top loser in the Sensex pack, falling over 4%, followed by IndusInd Bank, Axis Bank, ONGC, HDFC Bank, Bajaj Auto and Reliance Industries. On the other hand, Titan, Tata Steel, HCL, L&T and SBI were among the gainers. According to traders, massive selling in index majors RIL and HDFC Duo dragged the key indices lower. Globally, however, bourses in Shanghai, Tokyo and Seoul settled on a positive note, while Hong Kong ended in red. Stock exchanges in Europe were also trading on a positive note in early deals. Global oil benchmark Brent crude was trading 0.69% lower at US dollars 43.22 per barrel. The Islamabad High Court on Monday adjourned the hearing in the Kulbhushan Jadhav case till September 3, saying India should be given a chance to appoint a lawyer to defend the former Indian Navy commander sentenced to death for alleged involvement in a spying case, while stipulating that the lawyer should be a Pakistan national. The court instructed the Pakistan government to allow Indian authorities to appoint the legal representative for Jadhav in the case. Attorney General Khalid Javed Khan told the media the court has asked the Indian government once again be approached to engage a lawyer who is entitled to practice in Pakistan. In answer to a question, Khan said so far no option has been given to allow Indian lawyers to assist the Pakistani legal team. The court said that another chance should be given to the Indian government and to Kulbhushan Jadhav for arranging a lawyer. The offer to the lawyer will be made through Pakistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Pakistan government had approached the Islamabad High Court on July 22 appoint a legal representative for Jadhav. The move was made in the light of the International Court of Justice's July 17, 2019 decision, following which the International Court of Justice Review and Reconsideration Ordinance 2020 was enacted to implement the court's verdict. It's time for a short break. We will join you in a short while.
Desa mi abtundi fan with the cooler number one. Ika Chesco more fun unte cooler number one. Ika don't run from the sun unte Kelta number one.
पहली नजर में हो गया मैं दीवाना 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 इतना सुंदर जैसे कोई सपना सुहाना मैं दीवाना दीवाना
कटारिया टाइल्स, जो देखे वो दीवाना।
Welcome back to K News and thank you for watching. Let's continue the streak of news. The Supreme Court remained a mute spectator as communal riots ravaged northeast Delhi. Advocate Prashant Bhushan said on Sunday in his counter affidavit filed in response to the contempt of court case initiated against him by the top court for his tweets against the apex court and the Chief Justice of India S.A. Bobde. Bhushan refused to apologize for his tweets, stating that it fell within the domain of free speech, and also cited the speeches on dissent made by sitting SC judges. Justices D.Y. Chandrachud on February 15 and Deepak Gupta on February 24, when he was a sitting judge before retiring on May 6 to bolster his argument. Yet a week later, when the Delhi riots were unleashed with daily videos emerging of mobs tearing down and burning mosques, the police systematically destroying public CCTVs and taking an active part in stone throwing, the Supreme Court remained a mute spectator while the national capital burnt, the affidavit said. Earlier on June 27, he had tweeted that the Supreme Court's role and 4 former CJIs in adding the destruction of democracy will be taken note by historians in the future. This tweet, he said in his affidavit, is his impression about the manner and functioning of the Supreme Court in the past 10 years, and especially about the role of the last 4 Supreme Court justices that has led to the apex court failing to check executive high-handedness. In defense of his perception that the Supreme Court aided in the destruction of democracy, Bhushan referred to the press conference held by 4 Supreme Court judges in January 2018 against the manner in which cases were being assigned to select benches. So serious were the, were the misgivings of the senior sitting judges that they felt compelled to disregard the code of judicial conduct, to call a press conference and warn citizens of danger to democracy because of danger to a free judiciary, Bhushan further submitted. 2 days before the grand Ram temple ceremony at Ayodhya in Uttar Pradesh, details like the guest list and the invitation card with a saffron theme have been unveiled. The invite mentions Prime Minister Narendra Modi and 3 more names, indicating a vastly trimmed list in the time of COVID-19. 5 people will be on the stage: PM Modi, RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat, Uttar Pradesh Governor Anandiben Patel, Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, and Mahant Nritya Gopal Das. The invite also has an image of the Lord Shri Ram. Each invitation has a security code that will work only once. If the guest exits the venue, they will be not allowed back in, according to Champat Rai of the Ram Temple Trust. Invitees have been sent to some 175 people for the elaborate Bhumi Pujan. The invitations are only for residents of Ayodhya. The first invite went to Iqbal Ansari, one of the Muslim litigants in the Ayodhya case. Padma Shri recipient Muhammad Sharif, honored for cremating over 10,000 unclaimed bodies, has also been invited. The mega function organized by Yogi Adityanath will miss some of the key faces of the Ram Temple campaign in the BJP: L.K. Advani, Murli Manohar Joshi, and Uma Bharti. Mr. Advani and Mr. Joshi, both invited on the phone, will reportedly join the event virtually to observe coronavirus precautions. Uma Bharti said she would, for the safety of the PM and other guests, stay away from the event and visit the site after everyone was gone. The 3-language formula in the new National Education Policy 2020 is painful and saddening, said Tamil Nadu Chief Minister K. Palaniswamy as he vowed not to implement the new policy. Mr. Palaniswamy listed the consistent stand by late Chief Ministers Anna Durai, MGR, and Jayalalitha to express against imposition of Hindi and urged Prime Minister Modi to reconsider the 3-language policy. The minister also referred to the anti-Hindi agitation by Tamil Nadu students in 1965, when attempts were made by the Congress government to make Hindi the official language. Though the 3-language policy leaves it to state to decide on what that language would be, political parties in Tamil Nadu look at this as a tactic attempt by the center to impose Hindi. The center will not impose any language on any state. Union Minister for Education Ramesh Pokhriyal clarified through a tweet in Tamil to former Union Minister from the state Pon Radhakrishnan on Sunday. Imposition of Hindi has always been an emotional issue in Tamil Nadu. Although schools affiliated to the state board teach Hindi as an optional language. In the 1960s, Tamil Nadu had witnessed massive anti-Hindi agitation when the Congress government attempted to make Hindi the official language. This had catapulted the DMK to power in the state. India's refined fuel consumption in July slipped from June, according to preliminary industry data, indicating slower industry activity as high retail prices, flood and renewed coronavirus lockdowns in parts of the country dented demand. Local fuel sales, a proxy for oil demand, plunged to historic lows in April, when India imposed a countrywide lockdown. State refiners' diesel sales, which account for 2/5 of overall refined fuel sales in India, fell by 13% to 4.85 million tons in July from the previous month and by about 21% from a year earlier, according to data compiled by Indian Oil Corporation. State companies IOC, Hindustan Petroleum and Bharat Petroleum own about 90% of India's retail fuel outlets. Falling local sales and subdued refining margins have forced refiners to curtail crude processing. IOC, the country's top refiner, does not see fuel sales recovering to pre-COVID levels in the near future. Local fuel demand had gathered pace from May when India, the world's third biggest oil importer and consumer, partly eased lockdown to bolster its sagging economy. But a spike in domestic coronavirus infections had led to renewed imposition of lockdowns and addition of containment zones in several states. Also, floods caused by rains have displaced and affected millions of people in some states and hit industrial and construction activity in the country. State retailers sold 10% more liquefied petroleum gas in July from June at about 2.27 million tons and posted a growth of 3.5% from a year ago. Jet fuel sales in July rose 4% from June to about 218,000, but fell 65% from a year ago as curbs on air travel continued. India's worsening economic outlook as coronavirus cases soar has raised the chance the central bank will cut interest rates as its policy review on Thursday, in spite of inflationary pressures. Around two-thirds of economists in a Reuters poll expect the RBI to cut the repo rate by another 25 basis points on August 6 to a record low of 3.50% and once more next quarter. High inflation has added confusion to the Reserve Bank's policy outlook, but given the state of aggregate demand, we forecast the RBI will continue easing, said an economist at Barclays who expects a 25 BPS cut. Annual retail inflation rose in June to 6.09% from 5.84% in March, remaining above the RBI's medium-term target range of 2% to 6%. The RBI's recent policies have focused on financial stability and the need to support growth despite the price target. The country was placed under one of the strictest lockdowns in the world in late March for over 2 months to halt the spread of the coronavirus. the government gradually eased restrictions in June, although infections continue to rise. The poll showed most analysts expect the economy to contract 20% in the June quarter versus the April forecast of a 5.2% fall and remain in negative terrain until the December quarter. For the full year 2020-21, the economy is likely to shrink 5.1%, which would be its weakest performance since 1979, a sharp contrast to the 1.5% expansion forecast in April. A Chinese whistleblower scientist who fled to the US has claimed that COVID-19 originated in a military lab. The claim, which Chinese authorities have consistently denied, was made by virologist Dr. Li Mengyan during a live stream interview. She claims that the virus, which has killed an estimated 6,89,000 people worldwide, came from a People's Liberation Army facility. Dr. Li, a researcher at the Hong Kong School of Public Health, had previously accused Beijing of covering up the initial outbreak in Wuhan. During her research, she claims she traced the outbreak to the PLA, Taiwan News reported. Dr. Li said at that time, I had clearly assessed that the virus came from a Chinese Communist Party military lab. The Wuhan wet market was just used as a decoy. The virologist from Shandong in eastern China claimed it was no longer safe to remain if she reported her findings. I knew that once I spoke up, I could disappear anytime, just like all the brave protesters in Hong Kong. I could disappear at any time, even my name would no longer exist. Investigators have not found any evidence to corroborate the scientist's claim that the virus was man-made. In a statement, the Hong Kong School of Public Health said her assertion do not accord with the key facts as we understand them. She said she was asked to look into this new SARS-like virus that had originated in Wuhan back in December. In a statement to Fox News, the Chinese embassy in the US said we have never heard of this person. The Chinese government has responded swiftly and effectively to COVID-19 since its outbreak. The central government may extend the October 31 deadline to avail the rupees 3 lakh crore emergency working loan facility for small enterprises and individual professionals to help them tide over the crisis triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic, officials said. The government has already extended its scope by enhancing eligibility criteria to include larger units and also allowed individual professionals such as doctors, CA and cab drivers. The proposal to continue the scheme beyond October is also under consideration, the officials with direct knowledge of the matter said, requesting anonymity. The Union Cabinet on May 20, 2020 approved an emergency credit line guarantee scheme with a corpus of rupees 41,600 crore for about 5 months ending on October 31. The scheme provides for an easy additional working capital loan at a concessional rate on interest to an existing borrower who was not a defaulter. That's all for now. Keep watching K News. This is Hardik Trivedi taking your leave. Be alert, be positive, be safe.